What up, everybody? It's time to do a knife review. Now I'm going to tell you right now, this knife is beautiful. Not only does it look beautiful, it feels beautiful. The action is wonderful on it. This is just an overall very high quality knife, and I know that you know by the title. You already know what it is, so let's take a look at it. What we have here is a WE Knife Company 604E, and that E suffix is for the finish on this, and it's in the natural tie handle with the Tanto blade configuration and the satin finish with a black finish on the flats, whereas the other 604 models will have different handle anodized coloring. You've got the sort of stylized drop point, slightly recurved blade style, and then you've got the finish that actually it just flips from what this is, where it will be black on the grinds and satin on the flats. And I picked this model because it was a little more traditional in its finishing. I actually wish that there would have been some models that were totally satin finished blade, as I'm not really big on blade coatings. Although on this it's pretty subtle. It's just on the flat of the blade, and it's well done, and it feels like a high quality applied finish. I don't know if it's a PVD or a more modern finish like that or not. Honestly, I don't know. And this knife is not going to be a super user, so I doubt very seriously I'm ever going to damage that finish. Let's get into some specs first. And I'm going to start in all of my videos. All the specs that I give are going to be as measured by me. I will no longer be using the manufacturer specs, as I've got calipers and scales and whatnot. And I'm going to do exact specifications, and I'm going to do some little more detailed specifications than you'll see on some review videos. So what we've got here is a blade length of 3.75 inches, 3 3/4 inches. The blade stock thickness, as measured by me, is 159 thousandths. The overall blade width from the grind to the back side of the blade here is 840 thousandths of an inch, 0.84. And then we're going to go to the handle length here. The handle length was 4 7/8 inch. The handle thickness is 0.54 inch. The handle width itself, the width here, goes from, at this point, 0.83 inch to the widest point here is exactly 1 inch for the most part. The weight is 4.27 ounces. And then we're going to do a closed width, and as you can see, the blade pretty much fully nests inside the handle, so your maximum closed width again is going to be up here near the pivot at 1 inch. Alright, our blade steel on this is S35VN, which we're all familiar with. It is widely used across almost every manufacturer in the what I consider the mid-range knife sweet spot, which is right around the $200 to $300 sweet spot. You're going to see it in Zero Tolerance. You're going to see it spread all across Spyderco. You're going to see it in Kizer, in WE, Riate knives. All of those knives in that sort of $200 to $300 price point. Not all, but quite a few, quite a high percentage are using S35VN, and it's a good higher end stainless steel. You get extended performance, good wear resistance and edge retention. You don't have a lot of problems with chipping out on the edge, and you don't have a lot of problems with corrosion or rust. The handle material on this, of course, is titanium. It is in a frame lock build. The hardware, the pivot, screws, pocket clip, are all in titanium. As you see across nearly 100%, in fact, actually 100% of the WE knives, even their less expensive models, they're using that titanium hardware, which is fantastic. It is prioritized hardware. It is their star bit hardware, and of course this knife does come with the tool that you need for it. So not a big deal, although it's a pretty small tool, and I could see there being some issues with getting enough torque on it if you have a fastener that has been Loctited or is just sticky. So be careful if you disassemble these knives, because that hardware, first of all, it's going to be anodized. You don't want to scratch that up, and you don't want to strip out the hardware. Just be careful with it. All right. Well, I mean, you can see this knife right here. It's a beautiful, beautiful knife. It is a more exotic. I'm sorry. In fact, I call it a Asian exotic beauty, and that's what it is. You have the dragon scale machining on the handle scales, and I'm going to get a close-up here, and you can actually see the machining marks left by the tooling, and you can see how precise that machining is. And if you look over it, there is literally not one flaw in the machining on this knife. It is fabulously done. Whoever is working the station that is machining these scales, I commend them. They are doing a fantastic job. WE knives, everything that I've seen out of WE has been perfectly machined. I have not seen any machining issues on any knife of theirs that I have personally seen, and that has been a few. All right, the finishing on it, like I say, I got the unanodized titanium, the raw titanium, and I love that look. I love the look of raw titanium. Then you've got the purple anodized hardware. And as you see here on the show side, the only hardware you have showing is the pivot itself. You don't have any screws showing. And of course, that's to show off the machining on the scale itself. On the back side, you're only going to see 3 pieces of hardware. One, again, is the pivot. You've got the screw here for the hardened steel lock face insert. And then you've got the screw here for the pocket clip. And that's a longer length screw. And that's what holds the butt end of this knife together. That's your 3 pieces of hardware on this knife handle. Very clean. Not cluttered at all. A very clean, very classy, high-end approaching custom look. And there's a lot about this knife that is approaching custom quality. And I can say that with a little bit of authority. I've owned quite a few custom folders up to about the $1,000 price point. And honestly, none were finished any better than this. They just weren't. I'm sorry to any of those makers or anybody that just thinks that customs are some piece of magic that nothing can compare with. That's not really the case. In modern high-end production, oftentimes they are approaching and honestly consistently equal with the majority of custom stuff out there. You just don't get the cachet value of it being a total hand build. This knife, like I say, is titanium handled in a frame lock. This frame lock does feature a hardened steel insert to keep down wear between the steel blade tang and the softer titanium handle. God, it's just beautiful, guys. I just don't want to spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes on a video repeating over and over and over that it's beautiful. But if you want something that is slightly exotic looking, but it's not overdone and sort of campy and junky looking, this is a great, great model to look at. besides the cosmetics, it's actually a pretty classic shape. It has more of a classic, slightly rising primary edge and rounded secondary edge on the Tanto. And you can see the way it's ground. It is a very high flat grind. It's not fully flat ground, but it's a high grind, and it does give a fairly thin edge. But I was surprised. The edge is, it's not delicate. It would be a great utility edge if you could force yourself to do that with this knife. If you want to go and cut some cardboard with it, or cut some wood with it, or some cord with it, open envelopes with it, cut tape on box, I mean, whatever you want to do, this knife is fully functional and only has what limitations naturally a Tanto type of blade does. You're going to see with this type of Tanto tip grind, let's see if we can get that to focus, you do have a very narrow secondary grind on the edge here. So you keep majority, all actually, of the blade thickness very close to the tip. It is what I would consider a reinforced tip. All right, what we come to expect from modern Tanto tips, although with a little more Asian flair, not so westernized as the sort of flat geometric Tantos that were made popular by Emerson knives. And I prefer this. I like that more Asian look to it. Honestly, I don't know what this type of grind is called. I understand that it's a little more traditional way of grinding this type of blade, and I love it. Now, as far as this blade finish goes, it's got a pretty high satin finish, and this one doesn't look so reflective right now. I've got it coated with anti-rust, some Tough Glide. That's what you see on it, but it's a fairly high satin finish. The grinds are beautiful. They're even. The flat of the blade, the back of the blade spine are finished in this black finish. And then you can see the inside of this hole on a Spyderco, what you call the Spotty hole, but on this one is just aesthetic, I believe. The inside of that has the black finish on it, but they've come with and machined a chamfer around it. So you've actually got satin around that black finish, and it just adds another layer of detail into it. It's neither here nor there as far as usefulness. Then you've got some jimping on the back. Honestly, this jimping is very flat, very soft. You can see right here it's very flat. It is not what I would consider useful jimping. You can feel that it's there, but yeah, it's not what I would consider to be super useful jimping. On the back, the spine of the handle, you have this ball milled line down the center, and that hides the joiner line between the two halves of the handle and gives it a little more of an integral look, which does not carry over. I'm sorry, my camera keeps going out of focus. It does not carry over to the integral lanyard hole. You can see that ball mill did not continue across there, and you can faintly see the joiner line. And then the ball mill continues on the butt end. I haven't put a lanyard on this, but this is a good size lanyard hole. It's straight on through, no obstructions. You will have no difficulty at all putting a paracord lanyard on that if you so desire. As I said, it has a titanium pocket clip. This pocket clip is thin. It is it's pretty low profile. It gives enough room to carry in normal jeans, although you're getting sort of snug there as far as the depth of the pocket clip off of the handle scale, allowing material underneath it. It does have, on the tip here, there is a slight tip there, but I would not consider that to be intrusive at all. It's soft. In your grip, you just do not, you don't hardly feel this pocket clip. In that respect, it's an awesome design. It's not, a deep carry pocket clip, but the two schools of thought on deep carry, you're hiding that knife down in your pocket, but you're also losing this part of the handle that you're going to use to grip that knife and withdraw it from your pocket when you need it. So this pocket clip, it's a pretty decent design, unobtrusive. It does not cover up and hide the machining on the handle scales, which is the major selling feature of this piece. And yeah, okay, I'm going to say it again. It's a beautiful knife. It is. The fit and finish is fantastic. The blade grinds are even. You can see that edge grind. Let's get the other side here. All right, focus, come on. There we go. All right, it's even on both sides. The primary grind's even and the edge grind is even. Honestly, I cannot find any faults with this knife at all. The action is, it's hydraulic feeling. It is free fall, smooth closing. The detent is pretty much perfect. I've said that about some knives, but yeah, that action is smooth. The detent is pretty much perfect. It's very snappy as far as being a flipper, and it feels, you cannot feel the bearings at all on this. Now that's because of a couple of reasons. Now it uses ceramic bearings for the detent and the pivot bearings, and they tend to be smoother than steel bearings anyway. And whatever insert, I have not taken this apart, but whatever insert that those bearings are riding on is finished smoothly also. So it does have, if you close it slowly, yeah, it just has a hydraulic fluid feel to it, and very snappy, like I said. Now, what is the appeal of this knife? Who is this knife going to appeal to? I think that if you are a fan of the art of the modern day flipper folder, this knife is going to appeal to you. In one of its two blade configurations, whether you prefer a Tanto blade or the stylized drop point, either one, the handle is a pretty neutral design, and as you see, it sort of swells towards the butt end here. It comes up, it narrows down into a moderate choil here, and then it flares again up here on the pivot end. And that, to me, it sucks your hands right into a forward grip. It's very comfortable, very neutral. In a reverse grip, it's fantastic. The butt is shaped exactly, look at that, exactly like what you want for that grip. I think that the majority of hand sizes are going to be good on this knife. It is a full-size folder. It's not overly large. We're not talking about, something giant here, but it is a full-size folder. You're right at 5-inch handle length, 4 7/8 inches. And I think that's going to fit the majority of hands without being too large and obtrusive. And then at 4.27 ounces, it's not heavy, even for a fully tie knife. And the reason is, I don't know if you can see in there, but both sides, let's see if we can get this to focus and get some light down there. I apologize for my lighting. I'm going to have to work on it. But both sides, the inside of these tie scales are fully machined. And honestly, the inside is beautiful too. It's just beautiful machine work, beautiful finish work. The action is wonderful. Wonderful, guys. The feel is very, very high end in the hand. It is very smooth. like I said, when you open and close it, it is hydraulic feeling the entire way. There is no sensation of the bearings rolling on the surface. It is just fluid smooth. All right, so in that sense, it's going to appeal to anybody that loves bearing pivot flippers. It is as fantastically done as anything on the market that I've come across. And you know what? Let's call this a gentleman's knife, a large gentleman's folder, because this right here, I don't care what sort of dress you are in, this knife will fit as fine as you want to go. If you are wearing a tuxedo somewhere and you want to carry a full-size knife, yeah, this will do. If you want to carry a knife that has potential utility use and you're wearing jeans, you're down at the pub drinking a few cold beers with the buddies, you pull this out, everybody that sees it is going to be impressed with it. And you know, whether you agree or not, that's part of the battle right there in the knife world. We want to impress people when we pull our knives out. It doesn't matter if you're carrying a cheap knife or an expensive knife, you want it to be impressive in some sort of fashion. And this one is in every way. I can wholeheartedly recommend this model. And I know it's been on the market for a while, and there's a few reviews up on YouTube for it. But I just could not let this one sit in my collection without talking about it, because it's just like everybody else. I love to hear myself talk. And it is so beautiful and so wonderful. This is the WE 604E in this finish. And it is an exotic Asian beauty. All right, thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day.